Thank you for joining us here. The SCG Tour Milwaukee Open, sponsored by Ultimate Guard. We are here with the first of two semifinal matches. This is between Joe Lossett and Jory White. Joe Lossett, the #3 player in our Player of the Year standings. Week in, week out, he's one of our best competitors. We're playing Modern here, and he's on the green-red Tron deck, looking to make it to the finals. His competitor, though, more of a local star. This is Jory White. Won the most recent Milwaukee Open, hoping to make it back-to-back, defending home here. He's playing Burn. Last time he won, it was a standard tournament. He did it with mono red aggro. This guy plays one way, and he does it well.
I'm a big fan of these very aggressive red decks. I haven't been able to convince myself to actually play Burn in Modern or Legacy for that matter, but I like it with the red decks in Standard. It's really easy to just pick up a red deck and start jamming games. You can learn things really quickly, and you know your spot in a Standard metagame. I like that quite a lot. Though in Modern, we're playing Burn, we're in the top 8. Jory has a matchup that he likes a lot.
Yeah, Jory got a pretty reasonable side of the bracket. He won against Infect in the top 8, which is one of the matchups that I know that Burn players like to see. Actually, in his win-in, he defeated Will Drescher's Suicide Zoo deck as well. He beat Matt Stanky in the top 8. Now, if Jory makes it to the finals, he'll have to face up against Kitchen Finks. But here, it's the dreaded Tron deck.
The dreaded Tron.
Joe on the play as the #2 seed. I have to think, with the side of the bracket he was on, Joe has got to be thrilled that he gets all the die rolls. He'll need them.
I don't know if he's thrilled, but it's a sigh of relief to be sure.
These matchups on the draw just go from bad to comically bad. At least he can turn 3 Karn, Jory, right? And that probably works.
He really wants to turn 3 Wormcoil Engine, yeah.
Yeah, a turn 3 Wormcoil Engine probably wins.
Yeah, it's better than Karn.
That's actually true. This is one of the few matchups where that's the case.
Yeah, it's usually like, okay, Joe has Wormcoil Engine and his opponent's doing something like Scape Shift and doesn't care. We saw that on camera this weekend, but this is where Wormcoil Engine shines.
Yeah, Joe plays 2 Wormcoils in the main. He wouldn't think of going below 4 Karns.
Right. Joe,
turn 1, Urza's Power Plant and an Expedition map.
You can see Jory has a lot of foil cards in his deck. I really appreciate that he's using the set foil Arid Mesa instead of the Expedition.
I like Expeditions. I gotta go the other way on it.
Yeah, you like them on the feature match.
They can be hard to read. Okay, fair enough. For Jory, he will fetch Arid Mesa, get Stomping Ground, go to 17. He doesn't care about his life total here. He cares about Joe's life total.
Yeah, he can just play dual lands untapped, take 2 damage, even without a spell.
We'll see what the 1-drops are. Keep in mind, this is a straight Burn deck. He does have green cards like Wild Nikatl, like you see here, but outside of that, it is red cards. We have Lava Spikes, Rift Bolts, the whole package. Back over to Lossett.
Joe's got another Tron piece here.
Second Tron piece. He'll find the 3rd one off map. So he's threatening turn 3 Tron on the play. That's what he needs.
Yep.
If the follow-up Wormcoil Engine, it's his best shot. So yeah, that's a power plant and tower.
Yeah, Wormcoil Engine could be close to lights out. Jory's deck does have a Tarka's Command to go get around the life gain. So he's not just dead to Wormcoil Engine, but that's Joe's ideal start.
If Joe connects even once with that 6-point life gain, I feel like that's game.
Given the way that Burn plays out, it's kind of like making Jory mulligan twice or discard 2 cards.
Yeah, and if it happens once, it's going to happen again.
Right.
All right, he'll fetch for Sacred Foundry. That makes Nikatl into a 3/3, so he'll get the first 3 points of damage onto Lossett. And now we'll see the follow-up. It's Eidolon of the Great Revel, a card that can be very good. Joe's deck naturally plays around it by just playing really large cards.
If Joe had one of those hands where he had to cast Spheres, Stars, and Stirrings, then the Eidolon could really get him here, but if he just starts casting Haymakers on this turn, that's just not going to matter.
He finds the Urza's Mine, which means we have turn 3 Tron. The question, of course, is what card will be cast off of Tron. It is the dreaded Tron.
The dreaded Tron has been assembled.
Oh, no. What is it? It is...
Only tapping one of them is a good sign for Jory.
The Oblivion Stone off it. That's a Jory sigh of relief, right?
Yeah, this will have to be sacrificed on the following turn, but Joe, you need 8 mana to do that.
So I think what Joe kept on the play was he had turn 3 Tron in his opener, but no payoff card, and said, This is what I need. It's most of the way there.
Yeah, cross my fingers for that worm coil engine.
Yeah. I mean, even a Karn here would have been good, right?
Yeah, it would have been good.
Now we're back to Jory White. The dreaded Tron has been assembled, but Jory might just win it anyway. I don't think he cares about Oblivion Stone. If these guys get 5 more points of damage and Joe is at 10, I believe Jory has 10 points of burn.
With that many cards in hand, I'd be hard to believe otherwise.
Yeah. Joe says take. How about a Tarka's command from Jory? So pumps the team, pumps 3 damage to Joe. So this is 10 total damage coming Joe's way.
Joe down to 5.
Yeah, I think a burn player can close it from 5. Even without creatures.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a combination of 2 spells in his deck.
Even if Joe has a worm coil, it's probably okay. Joe will crack Oblivion Stone so that he can play these chromatic stars. Doesn't want to get hit by Eidolon.
Right.
But Jory didn't even play a 3rd land. So if you're in Joe's spot, you know that, yeah, look, some lightning bolts. Jory's hands all burn.
Yeah, Joe had to do that right away to cast spells so the Eidolon wasn't in play, though now Goblin Guide is suddenly live. Goblin Guide Lightning Bolt is lethal, or Monastery Swift Spear Lightning Bolt is lethal. Lava Spike interchangeable with Lightning Bolt in that scenario.
So Joe will cast Ancient Stirrings. He was still looking for that Worm Coil engine. He hasn't played a land yet this turn. But this is likely Joe Lossett's last turn.
You could have something like Tron Piece Spellskite, but he doesn't have blue mana. He still has to take 2 points, even for the spells that he can redirect. It blocks a creature if that's the plan, but there's not much Joe can do here. Picks up a Worm Coil engine off the Stirrings, but that's going to be too little too late.
Cracks Chromatic Star. You can see Jory, he's just ready to untap. He's just, I got this, guys.
Yeah, let me know when to go.
Joe found the Worm Coil engine. About that.
Yeah.
I don't.
He won't be able to untap and cast it, much less attack with it.
Yeah. All right, Jory. Is it time yet? Okay, it's time. You're tapped out? All right. Swift Spear. Lightning Bolt prowess it. Attack for 2. That's 5. That's game 1. Jory White.
Yep, Joe had the natural Tron, didn't have the natural Worm Coil engine, and that's where things fell apart.
Brutal. Burn, such an unforgiving deck. On the play, Joe had a turn 3 Tron. I think even without any sort of payoff, it's too good for Joe to mulligan, right?
Yeah, just keeping natural Tron, if you have a couple cantrips, it's really difficult to mulligan those hands.
Well, Joe will find himself in a hole. Was not able to steal game 1 this time. Now, things get easier for Joe after sideboard. You see a lot of the cards in his sideboard come in here. We'll go for the 6 cards. He has 3 Thrag Tusks, 4 Nature's Claims, 2 Relic of Progenitus, 3 Warping Whale, 2 Spellskite, or 1 Spellskite, and 2 Lightning Bolt. I assume nearly all of these are coming in, so let's talk about maybe what comes in and then how his deck as a whole changes. I mean, he's going to be boarding out tons of cards.
Certainly. So 3 Thrag Tusk, these creatures gain life. He has to survive to them, but they're great when we get to 5 mana and can cast them.
Right. They're better than Karns almost, right?
Yeah. They come down sooner and they gain life, which Karn doesn't exactly do. The Nature's Claim, we see Tron players frequently just use this and target their own artifacts just to gain life in matchups like this. So you should see that coming in, particularly if there's a Chromatic Star, so he gets to draw a card by doing that.
Does he ever get to hit Jory's cards with it, or is it actually just his own things?
Well,
game 4.
There's Eidolon and the Great Revel.
If it's still in the deck.
If it's still in the deck, and also if it matters to Joe, but that's really about all that's going to come down to.
Okay.
The 2 Warping Whales are interesting. You could potentially get a Monastery Swift Spear or counter something like a Lava Spike.
Okay. It's possible. He'd have to hold up mana, which I don't know that Joe can do.
Right, he's not in love with that. But the big ones and the rest of the list, the Spellskite for sure coming in. It blocks all of the creatures and hangs around.
Yeah,
redirects some burn spells and lightning bolts to interact with those creatures as well.
So if he's bringing in 7, 10 cards here, let's talk about how the Tron deck changes. This is one of the matchups where he's in main deck is so poorly positioned for the matchup that he actually revamps his strategy.
Right, so like the World Breakers are really slow. We don't like those. Ulamog is slower than World Breaker still, so we probably see some of these big haymakers coming out. You can experiment with trimming some of your cheaper cantrip effects and your cheaper artifacts. I like that. And trimming or cutting Oblivion Stone is another direction to go as well. And Ugin the Spirit Dragon, also very expensive. We could trim or cut that card entirely.
So Joe Losett trying to become this different deck post-board to try to beat Burn. Now, Number 3 in the Player of the Year race. We're going to take a look at that. Joe Lossett, we mentioned before how he fell just short of the Players' Championship. Right now, he has a 16-point lead on Bradley Carpenter for the overall at-large bid at the end of the year. These are the year-long standings on the SCG Tour. Now, with the top 4 finish, Joe is just going to keep going. He's going to pull far ahead. Jeff Hogan and Jerry Thompson both competed this weekend, but Jerry a top 64 finish. Jeff did not day 2. Joe, with a win, could even overtake in first place of the Player of the Year race in a great spot if he can keep up this pace to be in the Players' Championship at the end of the year.
Right, we see he's wedged between 3 players that are already qualified for the championship, so he's in the lead for that bid for the actual championship, but he's going to pull even further ahead of the rest of the pack.
All right, now there's also the Season 2 race, which is just beginning, and with a win here, even a top 4, Joe Lossett is going to find his name on this list. Now, the interesting part about it is if you look on this list and look down to number 4, Andrew Main, top 4 invitational competitor, he's in the other semifinal. He's almost sure to be at the top of this list at the end of the weekend. But with a win here, Lossett can keep it close.
Yeah, this is a great weekend for Maine, make no mistake about it. If he keeps coming to these events and keep putting up these results, he's somebody that we're going to be seeing a lot of.
All right, so we talked about how Tron will change for this game too, and it's a big one. Looking at Jory White's sideboard, he's a burn deck. It's a great matchup. I don't expect he'll change much. But is there a chance that he needs to... Does he adapt? I think what Joe's going to do is pretty canon. Jory expects it.
Right. The only card that he really has in his sideboard is particularly exciting. There are 4 copies of Skullcrack. Now,
right.
Joe's ideal play is Wormcoil Engine. Jory already has a Tarkus command. Skullcrack's just another copy of that effect. We can stop Joe from gaining life, and it also plays with those Nature's Claim that Joe has.
So you assume that Wormcoil's the way you lose, so you go up 4 Tarkus commands, 4 Skullcracks, just so long Wormcoil Engine.
Right.
All right. Now, what about a card like Destructive Revelry? Tron plays a lot of artifacts.
Yeah, they're primarily in here for decks like Affinity or decks like Green-White Hexproof, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple copies come in here. You can tag something like maybe an early Star Sphere. That's unlikely, like a map that Joe has to tap out for, something like that, or just an Oblivion Stone if those are still in. I'm less excited about this card. It hits Spellskite. That's kind of a big one. Yeah,
I would really like to kill a Spellskite. Also, Jory has some cards to board out. Eidolon of the Great Revel. At least when Jory's on the draw, that's probably too slow. He also has, generally I know burn players just board out Rift Bolts in a lot of matchups because it's the worst three damage for 1 spell.
Yeah, the sideboard cards aren't cards that you want in your main deck, and Rift Bolt is a card that you want to sideboard out, but you don't want to just like start Destructive Revelry.
Yeah, I love the philosophy of burn of, well, here's my Lightning Bolt, Lava Spike, Rift Bolt. They all do the same thing, but I board out Rift Bolt because it's the worst.
Yeah.
Because it's like Lava Spike that takes a turn. It doesn't happen the turn I want it to. Sometimes I lose.
It's the sorcery I have to cast the turn before.
It's why you see burn players, whenever they have a Rift Bolt, they suspend it on turn 1. It's because like at least it got that out of the way.
Right.
Jory White going to be on a mulligan here. Over on the other side of the bracket, we have an Obzon Company mirror between Andrew Main and Joseph Presnell. Now, we saw Andrew Main deftly defeat Tenjum in the top 8. Also competing for that Season 2 spot. He's now down a game to Joseph Presnell, so both Lossett and Main some work to do.
Yep. Some battling back. I believe that Joe's sideboard helps Joe more than Jory's does, and I would hope so with him bringing in as many cards that he's bringing in. This matchup is still pretty ugly.
On the other side, remember, Presnell, I think if you're Main, you needed the game 1. Both players do board into some removal after board, but Presnell is the only one of the 2 players that registered a Linvala Keeper of Silence this weekend.
That's a huge breaker.
Yeah, it's a 1-card slot that really helps in the mirror.
Yeah, with the 4 Court of Callings.
4 Court of Callings, and Andrew Main is on mostly Abrupt Decays as his kill spell, which Linvala costs 4. Yeah.
He has that 3-2 split of Abrupt Overpass.
He has 2 paths and 1 Fiend Hunter, and that's all he has to interact with Linvala.
Yeah, that's going to be a rough one for Main.
He does have multiple Archangel Avacens. If that's what the matchup's about, I mean, she doesn't have any activated abilities.
Yeah.
She doesn't. If those 2 angels face off, I mean, Avacen's the greater angel.
That's true.
I still think I'd want Linval in the matchup, though.
Yeah. Deck lists are face up, so hopefully that those games aren't decided by just willy-nilly attacking into Avacen mana and losing the game because of that. But I definitely am bigger on the Linvala.
We did see Joe, the beneficiary of some mulligans in his top 8 match against Will Drescher. He dodged his worst matchup, maybe in the room, Suicide Zoo. Will Drescher mulliganing to 5 and 6. Well, Jory's going to mulligan to 5 this time.
Okay.
It's
Joe feeling better about this game, to be sure. Burn is just a deck that all of the resources have to combine. You know, it's 3+3+3. You try to get those 7 iterations of 3 damage, or some 2s and 4s in between, and every time you mulligan, it's just one fewer element of that package.
Yeah, it's not a deck that wants to mulligan. Especially in this matchup, he doesn't have too many repeatable sources of damage. He'll scry to the bottom on the draw. He is kept. So underway, Joe, turn 1. Urza's Mine Expedition map. We saw him last game in game 1 keep a hand of Tron with no finisher. And look at this, Jory kept a 0 lander on the draw.
Yeah, he found a 5-card hand. The curve must be just excellent in this hand, but he scried to the bottom and he's missed his first land drop.
Yeah, if you're Jory and you see double Goblin Guide, no land on the draw, I'm gonna keep it.
Oh yeah.
He has about 1 more turn to hit that land. You see, for Joe's side, he plays Chromatic Star, cracks it for green mana, casts Ancient Strings. You see when he sacrificed the star, he got to draw a card, and the card he drew was Wormcoil Engine. So that's the finisher if he can get enough mana. But this Stirrings was a miss.
Yeah, potentially that Wormcoil Engine's only 2 turns away, but Joe has to find the rest of the Tron. The map gets him one of the pieces, still has to find the other.
All right, Jory gets to play the game. Top card is Copperline Gorge. Here's Wild Nicatl and a pass. So Wild Nicatl plus Copperline Gorge.
These, it casts the creature.
Yeah, yeah.
It casts it as a 1/1.
Not how we drew it up.
Joe's found himself on this other side of a lot of 1/1 Wild Nicatls in this top 8.
Yeah, Will Drescher was casting them off Overgrown Tombs. I don't know if these players... you want to just, like, read the card, you know?
Yeah.
Why are we playing these other lands with it? That makes sense. Joe will crack the star. Wants to draw a card first. He draws Urza's Tower. This is a heads-up way to do it. Joe did that so he would better be able to crack Expedition map. But he'll play Spellskite for the turn and pass. This is interesting. Joe could have just popped map and not played Spellskite, but he wants the Skite.
Yeah, got the Skite in play. He knows that Jory's kept this no-land hand. Presumably, there's a lot of gas on 1 mana in the hand.
Joe blocks the 1/1 Nicatl with Spellskite. Jory will finish it off with Lightning Bolt, but no other plays.
That's fine. Joe's just building up to that Wormcoil Engine.
I think Joe's happy if Jory's spending his turn casting Lightning Bolts. He's probably just happy in general.
Right, and Joe also knows that, I don't think you board it in this matchup, but Joe knows there's no Path to Exiles in Jory's sideboard.
So that's huge.
Yeah,
so that means when Wormcoil hits the table?
Yeah, so the Spellskite's somewhat expendable because the Wormcoil is going to demand a lot of attention anyway.
Yeah, if you were worried about paths, he might try to keep Spellskite around to protect the engine.
Right.
Yeah, okay, so if Jory does not have Path to Exiles, he just doesn't answer Wormcoil Engine.
No.
Okay.
He could hit it with Destructive Revelry, but then Joe still gets the 2 tokens and a
3/3 lifelink's still good.
Joe's still at 20.
Joe, Chromatic Sphere, sacrifices. Draws Sylvan Scrying. He can cast that. This is off his newly found Tron. He'll cast Star. Fire Spout instead. Go. No creatures on Jory's side. If you're Jory, you just have to hope that Joe has no follow-up of any type.
Right.
It's not the case.
No.
Jory has left an Eidolon of the Great Revel. You see 2 copies of it in his hand. We were wondering about that one.
Yeah, it's a bit curious to have that in the draw, and it's definitely not good in this position.
Well, yeah, on the play it's pretty good because Joe has to do a lot of Chromatic Sphering, Ancient Stirrings, Chromatic Star. Joe draws Lightning Bolt. We saw those in the sideboard. We expected to see them.
Mm-hmm.
Notice.
This turn has just got to be Wormcoil Engine.
Interesting question for you. Is it even possible that Joe boards out some number of Karn here?
Certainly.
Okay. I mean, the card's great, but...
Discard is somewhat relevant against burn. You just use the +4 on Karn and exile some burn spells.
Here is the Wormcoil Engine for Lossett. He plays it. We go back to white. Joe's at 20. Jory will pass. I think he has to Skullcrack this turn. That's why he's leaving up 2 mana.
Yeah, that's got to be what he has. just going to prolong the inevitable.
Well, actually, if you look at a straight damage race, the Wormcoil attacks for 6, Jory takes 2 when he casts Skullcrack. All lifelink aside, Joe might just be winning the race.
Yeah.
Here comes Wormcoil Engine. If Joe ever gains 6 life, the game's over. Here's Skullcrack. Jory takes 2, goes to 18. Joe takes 3, goes to 17.
And remember, Jory is on a 5-card hand here. There's nothing wrong with keeping that no-lander here because 4 cards would not be doing it in this game.
Well, I guess he had a Nacatl. He's hoping to draw a land. It's really unfortunate that his deck has, like, Nacattl's a great 1-drop, but it actually needs 2 lands to be good. If those Nacatls were Goblin Guides, I think it's more appealing for Jory.
Yeah.
But you're right. If you're debating the difference between keeping a bad 5 and going to 4, I understand where you just... Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, particularly on the draw with that Scry mulligan.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, the hand's totally defendable.
It's one of those things where you say, I'm going to keep this and I expect to lose.
Right.
Just my 15% that this hand gives me is worse than the 10% of my average 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's the kind of math you don't want to have to make.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jory takes the hit off Wormcoil. He goes down to 12. We go back to Jory. He draws a 3rd land. It is his 3rd copy of Copperline Gorge.
It's a lot of Copperline Gorge.
He plays 3. No, Sacred Foundry. Okay, Sacred Foundry.
That would have been good a while ago.
Well, I don't know. It doesn't cast the turn 1 Nacatl.
You're so right.
It pumps it really well, though, if somehow the Nacatl finds its way in play.
Yeah, so these are untimed rounds. Jory has nowhere to be. He's at, realistically, 0% to win this game, but no real reason to concede. Make Joe work for it a little bit.
2 damage puts white down to 10. Here's Monastery Swift Spear. Jory takes 2, goes to 8. The problem here is the race. I'm kind of talking about this. He actually just can't race Wormcoil.
If Joe bricks like 5 or 6 turns in a row, and Jory always has a chump blocker and an Atarka's Command or a Skullcrack,
yeah,
that's how he wins this game.
the fact that the Eidolon's dealing damage to Jory is not...
That's the first
really...
creature to chump block.
Yeah, okay, get that out of the way so we can stop hitting ourselves.
Yeah.
All right. Swift Spear attacks for 1. Joe goes to 16. This is the game plan? We're going to... boy.
This is what I got, Joe.
Oh, I cannot contain my excitement. We go back over to Lossett.
I mean, earlier in this tournament, we watched Tron brick for like 20 turns, right?
He did still win the game. But you're right.
Attention all Magic players.
Instead of winning in Ayavugan, Tutor Up, Ulamog fashion, he won in let's spend 15 minutes sitting here doing nothing fashion.
Land, star, lands.
Ancient Stirrings for star, crack it, land. All right, Joe attacks again. Jory will chump block and Skullcrack. No life gain for Joe. Joe goes to 13, Jory to 6. 13 feels achievable if Jory's hand's all Lava Spikes. Actually, if Jory's hand's all, I mean, the problem is that Joe has this Lightning Bolt in hand. And
right.
You have to assume that Jory's hand's all Lightning Bolts and Joe's hand is all basic lands, and then you think Jory's got a chance here.
Correct.
And now with the Eidolon off the table, Joe will start to play some of these other cards. Sylvan Scrying. And we have our first result from the semifinals. In a 2-0 sweep, it is Joseph Presnell over Andrew Main. So the overall 1 seed, best record in the tournament, now into the finals with Abzan Company.
Best record, best deck, the most represented deck in the top 8. 3 Abzan Company, the lone remaining company player.
Just say it, best deck. I think that's fair right now until someone shows us otherwise.
Yeah.
Maybe not every weekend, but this weekend it sure was.
Right, we've seen Joe take some Abzan Company players out of this tournament. It's a good matchup for him, but he's not the format. He's just one player with one deck.
If Lossett can somehow get past this burn deck, he's got to think that the championship's in sight. Lightning Bolt will take care of Monastery Swift Spear. We go back to Jory White. Joe continuing to do well in every format. That's not Legacy. No. He's been crushing Legacy Classics.
Yeah, just every format.
Something to be said for picking one deck and never budging. You get very good at it.
Oh, yeah. Tons of reps.
For Jory, he will draw Wild Nacatl, play it. He's used 2 Skull Cracks so far. The question is, how many more can he have? Remember, Atarka's commands count.
Yeah, well, he has it in Atarka's command in his hand.
Okay. But he's at 6, so he needs blockers.
Well, he just
has to
played
chump.
this Wild Nacatl.
Yeah, I mean,
chump
they're
block.
not dealing damage. Ugh.
Well, he only has 1 other card in his hand, and there's no 2-card combination that just deals 10 damage on the stack.
Joe will try to swing Wormcoil Engine again. Chump block with Wild Nacatl. Here's Atarka's command. No life gain. Joe takes 3. He's down to 10.
Now, if Joe continues to have nothing, theoretically, a destructive Revelry to break up an attack of the Wormcoil for another turn.
Okay, so Joe attacks. Jory Revelries. Joe goes to 8. Then Jory draws a stack of Boros Charms or light.
Well, it could be Revelry on the Wormcoil Engine into Revelry on the Lifelink token.
Into
Leftover burn spell off the top, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right there. Sanctum of Ugin is the find for Joe. Basically, it's in the bag for Jory.
Well, now that I've called it, it's not going to happen.
Oh, he drew the Eidolon of the Great Revel. I actually think Jory has an Atarka's command in hand, but he's going to go ahead and pack it in.
The attack's just lethal. Joe had a Grove of the Burn Willows was his red source, but he had that sphere effect to cast the Lightning Bolt previously, so Jory stayed at 6.
Smile on White's face. You got to think it was he wants this bad. He fought through so much.
Yeah. He's just thinking, I mulliganed to 5, and that was pretty close, Joe.
My first turn was me saying go. Okay. So have you ever kept 0 landers, missed on turn 1, and won a game? I got 1 lifetime. It was here at an SCG Tour event, but
it's
great.
I did this one time. I was playing against a friend in the sealed deck, and I kept my 7 without lands.
Okay.
Because I wanted to teach him a lesson.
Wait, how does this work?
My hand had 2 Elvish Visionaries.
Oh, right, you love this card.
Well, yeah, obviously it's great. And a Borderland Ranger, and I peeled land, Visionaried into a land, played Borderland Ranger, and just actually played a game of Magic. And after the game, and I said, do you know how many lands I kept in my opening hand? And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, it rhymes with hero.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a good quote. Did you work on that ahead of time?
I had it in my pocket.
Yeah, in the pocket. Mine's exciting. It was at a SCG Legacy Tour event, playing Omnitel, because, we like our mono blue decks,
sure.
against Belcher. On the play, I'd mulled to 6, and I believe the keep was Ponder, Preordain, Force of Will, Show and Tell, Enter the Infinite. I was like, this is like... I got 2 Force of Wills against Belcher. I got 2 cantrips, pause. Okay. I said keep. I was on the play because I'd lost game 1. I remember just saying, all right, go. And my opponent looks at me, he's like, all right.
I see.
And then 2 turns later, we drew an island, and we won. It was great. Because Force of Wills really, it's a 5-for-2 against their deck.
I had a brief stint where I played Dredge in Vintage. Plan there was always to mulligan to Bazaar of Baghdad, but I don't think I ever missed in my opener, which means mulliganing to literally 1, and then found it.
All right, so StarCityGames.com Creature Collection. This has been taking place at Star City Games Game Night. Now, you see it on our pins, on the tokens, on everything you can win at Game Night. However, it's not just the Game Night promo. Some of these creatures are so well-renowned, are so beloved that they make their way onto sleeves and playmats in player bundles. So this is the Manatiri Mentor. It's going to be available tomorrow at the store, StarCityGames.com, because it is the May Game Night promo, the Manatiri Mentor.
I like that extended art on the Manatiri Mentor on that playmat.
I like that. Yeah, it puts it in context, right?
Yeah, there's
He's mentoring the other walrus.
We see the
manatee.
We see the mentee manatees.
Yeah, they don't have prowess yet.
No,
they're working on it.
They're learning prowess.
You can find out more at StarCityGames.com/creature collection. We have another one. We have this one wasn't a game night promo. It's just a cat and its friend. They're playing in the water.
I still take issue with you referring to tigers as cats. I know it's technically correct.
Wait. How do you have issues with tigers as being cats?
When you say the word cat, I don't think of an animal that could just kill me in the wild.
I don't know. They like purr and meow and pounce on things. I guess they don't meow. But they do a lot of cat things.
There's something really unsettling about a tiger purring. I can't.
They do it.
I understand, but it makes me deeply uncomfortable.
Because they can kill you?
Because they're murderous jungle cats, Matthias.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, like when you're petting a cat, like a house cat, and sometimes they like purr, and then they like bite you, and then they purr some more, and you're like, okay, I don't know what happened there. If it was a tiger, that'd be way more concerning. If it's like purring, decides to bite you, bites your hand off, goes back to purring, you'd be like, that's messed up, tiger, okay? We're not cool.
We shouldn't have bought a zoo.
All right, Jory White on the play. Game number 3. This one's for a spot in the finals. He starts on Copperline Gorge into Wild and Cattle. Cringe. But it still might be okay. One Sacred Foundry will fix everything.
Let's see what Joe has. Can he build up to that natural Tron warm coil engine starts that he really, really wants in this matchup?
The dreaded Tron.
The
Will
dreaded
it show its face?
Tron.
Well, it'll be Grove with the Burnals into Lightning Bolt. So Grove means that no Tron until turn 4 at the earliest, but no creature for Jory.
Yep, the Lightning Bolt is definitely a big step, though. Joe needs to start finding these Tron lands fast.
Yeah. Jory's turn 2. Stomping Ground into play untapped. He takes 2. And he'll play Monastery, Swift Spear. Lava Spike at Joe. So Joe down to 17. The Prowess brings Swift Spear to a 2-3. The attack puts Joe to 15, and we pass.
Very solid start from Jory.
And Joe picking up his first Tron piece here. It's a copy of Urza's Power Plant. I believe he has a mine in hand. He'll cast Sylvan Scrying here. Puts Jory back up to 20. He doesn't care about that. So mine is in hand. He's going to find Tower here. So he has Tron on turn 4.
Right.
This is the kind of draw which is pretty good. It's a little slow, but
best case scenario for Joe is Jory just like plays a couple Wild Nakados here, and then Joe has Fire Spout on turn 3, and then Tron on turn 4.
Right. The danger would be if Jory plays, land, Swift Spear, spike, swing, and then you're just dead.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to kill Joe from there.
I think so. He's hoping Jory has all burn spells, and I think he's most of the way there. Here is Monastery, Swift Spear for Jory. I don't believe he has another creature, so is it just one? It is just one. It's interesting. He could cast a burn spell, and he'll play Eidolon of the Great Revel.
Okay.
A turn 3 Eidolon.
Joe won't be able to cast anything that doesn't trigger it on this turn.
Yeah, you see he has a Nature's Claim in hand and a copy of Fire Spout. He's going to have Jory gain a life. He's going to Fire Spout away Jory's creatures. He'll take 2 damage to do it, but this is still a win for Joe. He's at 12. That's healthy.
Right. Jory still doesn't have any white mana, so things like Boros Charm are dead draws.
Yeah, draws a copy of Arid Mesa, so there's the mana. I don't think he wants any more lands if he can help it.
Right. That's the last one that he's going to want this game.
He'll go to work. Suspend Rift Bolt, pass. Jory's remaining 2 cards are Lava Spike and Skull Crack, so he has 9 points of burn showing. He needs 3 more to finish the deal, and he needs to be sure that Joe never gains life. Tron assembled for Joe, 8 mana.
Yeah, so if Joe is setting up just random artifact Nature's Claim to gain some life, Jory is going to want to have 2 mana available to Skullcrack that at all times.
So between this Rift Bolt, the Lava Spike in his hand, and the Skullcrack in his hand, I think that's possible.
Right. Yeah, he's able to just cast a 1 mana spell the following turn and lead it up, but he should crack this fetch land in response to the map.
Oh, so Expedition Map from Joe.
Okay, now Jory definitely wants to wait until his turn to crack this fetch land.
Okay, he's going to crack the fetch land. Now, with this on the stack, let's see if Joe goes for a Nature's Claim. And he will. This is a big play.
This is a misstep for Jory here.
Yeah, Jory needed to do this during his own turn.
Yeah.
So that he had another mana up. Now, so what Joe was doing is with that fetch land in the graveyard, Joe saying, wait, do not find your land yet. I am blowing up my own Expedition Map. I gain 4, I go to 16.
Right.
Huge play for Joe Lossett.
Jory was already in a position where he needed to top deck another 3 damage spell to deal with Joe's existing life total. Joe just increased his life total by 33%.
Yeah, by 4 points. So now this Rift Bolt will put Joe down to 13. Jory has 6 points of burn in hand. He needs to find 7 more now. Before it was 3.
Right. And Joe, with all those maps, you know, any haymaker off the top, he's going to be able to cast it.
Yeah, now remember, there's no Eye of Ugin. I know we've said that all weekend. If there was one in Joe's deck, this would be lights out.
Oh, yeah. He'd
But
be
there
able to
isn't.
start finding Worm Coil Engines. Now he has to rely on the top of his deck.
Yeah, so there's still possible that Joe misses. One of the interesting pieces of technology, so Joe has decided to play 2 Sanctum of Ugin as his card that is trying to replace Eye of Ugin. We've seen some other things this weekend out of Tron players. We did see one of them try Seagate Wreckage, but Joe doesn't have that. So back to Jory. Lava Spike puts Joe to 10. Joe will crack a map. And I suppose he's going to try to keep some of these maps in play in case he draws another Nature's Claim.
Right. Also just doesn't need these lands. They're not utility lands. It'd be cool if he had a split of Sanctum of Ugin and Seagate Wreckage.
Yeah, maybe one of each. Joe's going to crack both maps here, actually. Just really trying to thin the deck, I suppose.
Right. Make him more likely to find that Worm Coil Engine.
Got Basic Forest with the other map. I'm a little confused that he would crack the second one here, actually. Is it the deck thinning argument?
That's what it must be. I would like to have that map on the battlefield, though.
Deck thinning, the numbers on deck thinning are very small.
Maybe he only has 1 Nature's Claim in? That seems like a weird number, but it's possible.
Spellskite the draw for Joe.
Yeah, that's not the big payoff he wanted, but it's good.
Yeah, Jory's hand is Lava Spikes and Skullcrack, so he's going to, in response to Spellskite, Lightning Bolt Joe down to 7.
Right.
Heads up play for Jory. He needs 4 more points of burn. And his deck will produce it. Might take a few turns, but it'll happen. His draw for the turn, we don't have a good look at it just yet. He'll pass. We go back to Lossett. Lossett, it's a green card. It's an Ancient Stirrings. That would be huge. It is.
All right.
Here's 5.
His odds are good here.
To find something. Even Karn would be good right now. A plussing on Karn is great. And he's found the Worm Coil Engine.
All right. Now, Jory just has to be able to kill Joe before Joe takes his next turn. He has that Skullcrack, so he can stop the Worm Coil gaining on one swing.
So Jory has 2 draws to find 4 damage?
Yeah.
Possible. This could go either way. Worm Coil Engine is the play for Joe. And Jory knows, okay, this is dangerous. How do we get by this? We have 1 Skullcrack. He'll draw a card.
What he doesn't want is a creature or a land.
Or a burn spell that could, in theory, go to Spellskite.
Right.
Well, here's a land, Arid Mesa. I think that was his draw last turn. He's got 1 Skullcrack. All he needs is a Boros Charm off the top, and that should work, even if it happens next turn.
Right. He'll be able to stop Joe from gaining the 6 life with the Skullcrack on the following turn and then just peel the 4 damage spell. He's also live by peeling another Skullcrack or a Tarkus command, and then he gets him a redraw. He has 20 life, so he can take a couple hits with the Worm Coil Engine.
Right. Him losing life off the Worm Coil isn't the problem. The problem is when Joe gains 6. If it happens even once, that's probably game over.
Right.
And he gets a Sacred Foundry into play. That 4 life point swing off the Nature's Claim may be the difference in the match here.
Yeah, I mean, Joe's just dead to Skullcrack if that never happens, right?
Yeah, he'd be at 0. That would be game. So yeah, I suppose it makes a difference.
Yeah, you might say.
See what this Jory passes to Joe. Joe draws Grove of the Burn Willows. That's nothing in his hand. It's all about the Worm Coil. He swings in. Does it connect? No. Skullcrack's going to happen. No life gain for Joe. Joe takes 3. He's now down to 4. Oh, this I like about Burn. These games always, they come to this so frequently.
Oh, yeah.
It's great.
They make it interesting.
Joe, yeah, land, go. It's not about Jory's life total. As soon as Joe gains 6, that'll be it.
All right, what do you have, Jory?
Yeah, all right, so he's got decisions on his end step here. I mean, it's definitely not Boros Charm then.
Maybe it's Boros Harmony's respecting nature's claim.
Wow. That doesn't
I mean,
totally make sense.
If he has it, Joe's dead. Yeah, Joe can't gain life on this turn cycle.
It is Destructive Revelry on Spellskite.
No, you're absolutely right. This turn cycle he wouldn't be able to gain life.
Wait. That play doesn't.
That's a misstep.
Bad.
That's
really bad.
Well, the Spellskite can redirect on the following
but
turn, but that would kill
life.
Joe. Yes.
And a land, that's going to be, Joe went to 2, and that's going to be the game and match for Joe.
Yeah, just 2 swings and Jory's dead, and even the first connection will put Joe out of range for 1 spell from Jory.
It doesn't win for Jory. And there you go, Joe Lossett, 2 games to 1, takes game 3. He is into the finals.
It navigates just this impossible bracket for himself.
So okay, the play we're talking about is that if Jory waits and Destructive Revelries at the Worm Coil engine, then Joe can't redirect a Spellskite, because if he does, he'll take 2 from the redirect and 2 from the Revelry. So it gives Jory another draw. Now maybe if the top card of the deck is bad, then Joe still wins.
He could still miss from there, but that line was the line that Jory had to take. And earlier, that misstep with the fetch land, not leaving up Skullcrack, that opened the window for Joe to cast that Nature's Claim. As you see, Joe won the game on 2, gained 4 life.
So the comeback is finished for Joe Lossett. He gets placed on side of the bracket with Suicide Zoo, Burn, and Infect, and Tron emerges from this.